You know the vibes.
Yeah. Let's talk about it. Let's do it.
It's a sad day. You're listening to the Juice podcast, brought to you by NBA 2K23. NBA
Did we just start?
2K23.
Did we just start? I didn't even know we started.
We started, you know the vibes.
No.
As I was saying, 2K23, the only place where I can still see Marcus Smart in the Celtics uniform. I'm Moonsie, alongside me as always, BJ Armstrong. BJ, how are you doing today?
Wow. Someone's a little salty today. Okay.
BJ, I'm having a bad day. I'm having a bad day.
Well, let's get to it.
My office flooded, right? There was like a shock flood, rainstorm, whatever. While you're enjoying the sunshine in your barbecue, my Wi-Fi router and my fuse box and all the wires in my place got flooded. And Marcus Smart got traded from the Celtics. So all in all, a horrible day. But here we are on the podcast. And to make things worse, we did a podcast yesterday, which was a whole waste of time because I was excited about a trade, thinking Malcolm Brogdon was going out. And instead, we end up with Porzingis in exchange for Marcus Smart. So we now have the softest roster in the entire NBA. And yeah, here we are. BJ, let's get your thoughts on the trade.
Well, let's start off with what I think they're trying to do. First, I want to commend the ownership because clearly they've pushed their chips all to the middle of the table. Okay. Now we can disagree or agree, whether these are the right players or right group. We can agree. We can have that a separate conversation. However, what I want to do for sure is say the ownership group are pushing all of their chips to the middle of the table now with this Porzingis move, because now clearly what they're saying is we're going for it. They're whether or not we agree this is the best move or the correct group, whatever, we can have that a separate conversation. I will say this. Now they've made it clear that they're going for it. Okay. So that's the first thing. Second thing, I don't think I don't think they're done.
They have to not be done, because if this is the roster, this is disgusting.
Okay. I don't think they're done. And third, what is the one thing that Coach Joe Mazzulla and staff they've been harping all year. They like 3-point shooting. Well, he is a 3-point shooter. Okay. Fourth, I will say this. I was looking at the roster. I said, okay, Derek White at the 1, Jaylen Brown at the 2, Jason Tatum at the 3, Porzingis at the 4, and the Time Lord at the 5. I was like, that's a nice, that's good size. You have shot blocking. You can replace that with Al Horford. So I was thinking, I was like, you know what? It's not bad. Now, do I think it's a complete roster? No. Do I think it's a team that, can play significant minutes together? Probably not. However, if they can get healthy and those guys could get to the season where all those guys could be on the floor for, let's say, 25 to 30 minutes a night, I was like, yeah. Now, do I think they're going to probably need other things? Like you just mentioned, I value toughness. Marcus Smart's toughness. Grant Williams' toughness. I value that. However, if they're able to add that into the building along with this talent and this length, they have length now and size. I was like, you can't argue it. We can argue whether
yesterday,
or not. We can argue.
Yesterday on the show,
you can have it.
All right.
Yeah, I'm just saying we can argue whether it will work. But when I was looking at it, I was like, you know what? I can see what they're doing. I see what they're doing. So that's all I want to say about it.
Well, yesterday on the show, you said you didn't like the trade when it was Brogdon because they lose toughness. They defensively may get worse. And now that they've swapped Brogdon for Marcus Smart, you seem to have come around more on a trade. It's interesting.
I'm not coming around. I just want to make it clear. And then you can have it. I promise. I won't interrupt. I'm not saying that's what I would have done. I said, I just see let me look at it from their viewpoint and try to see what they're doing. I'm not saying I would have done it, but I could see what they're trying to think of. Now it's yours.
So the reason why the original deal fell through is the Clippers didn't agree to it because Malcolm Brogdon has a health issue, a significant health issue that's so significant that the Celtics can't do the trade. He's apparently still not had surgery on his elbow, I believe, and they don't know how long he'll be out. So knowing that means the Clippers didn't want Brogdon, which if the Clippers don't want someone because of injuries, given that they are the home of load management, it must be pretty bad. So now you've got a roster where your guards are Derek White, Malcolm Brogdon, who has this significant health issue, and Peyton Pritchard. So your guard rotation has got a lot worse. You've traded away your best defender. You've traded away the heart and soul of the team. Marcus has had a positive net rating every single season he's been with the Celtics. That means every single time he's been on the court for a season with the Celtics, they've outscored their opponents, right?
Okay.
You've got a guy who's not missed the playoffs yet in his entire career and was the real leader and the voice in the locker room. If you think back to that season where they were down in the standings and turned it around and got to the NBA Finals, it was Marcus Smart in that locker room. Remember those reports came out where he was screaming at Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and then that's when the play of the Celtics improved. So you've lost the culture and the fire from the team. Grant Williams is also going to go, and he was the only player who was really standing up to the Miami Heat when they were in that series. So you've now been left with a very soft team. And I think, yeah, everyone's going to tell me, Porzingis ranks ahead of Smart in all these metrics and advanced stats. I don't care about any of them. This is basketball. It's not a spreadsheet. It's not a game that's played on a computer. It's real life, okay? Now, if we're playing NBA 2K, maybe it's an advantage for your team to trade Marcus Smart for Porzingis. But in real life, when Porzingis has proven himself to be soft time and time again, this is a horrendous move for this. So now you're forcing Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown to have to step up and become the leaders of the team. I don't know how that's going to work out. I want to commend the Memphis Grizzlies for this trade because they've got an amazing piece in defense and leadership and everything that can come in and really give some guidance to those young players. We spoke about that recently. Also with Ja Morant out, they've got a guy that can come in and be their lead ball handler. And then when Ja Morant returns, he's comfortable playing off the ball. So I like what they've done. They've given up Tyus Jones, who wanted a bigger role anyway. So I think Memphis have done really well out of this trade. The Wizards, once again, have not received any first-round picks in these deals. So for Beal and Porzingis, they're yet to receive any first-round picks. So Memphis came away as the winners in this one. And I really hope that the Celtics have got something else planned, because if they go into the season with this roster, I think especially at those guard positions, as great as Derek White has been, don't get me wrong, he may have had a better season last year than Marcus Smart did. Defensively, he was elite. Offensively, he was great as well. But if you're not going to have Brogdon, he's injured. So they've got 2 first-round picks in return for Marcus Smart. They received Porzingis and 2 first-round picks. Then, now you can package those first-round picks with Brogdon to try and get talent from elsewhere. But you talk about getting the toughness back into the roster. Who can you look at around the league that the Celtics could realistically get that would provide them with the leadership and the toughness of Marcus Smart? There is no one. And that's where I really struggle with this trade.
Well, when you talk about leadership and a championship caliber, right? Leadership is a collective thing, right? And Marcus Smart, as you evolve into a championship caliber team, which they have, that has to be an internal thing. That has to come from everyone. And Marcus Smart has been a very vocal leader, okay? But there's all types of leadership. There's vocal leaders. There's guys who lead by example. There are quiet leaders. There are guys who, individually, they thrive in communication and relationships. And one of the things that you have to do as a championship caliber team is you have to always leave space open for your best players to evolve and step into that role. And right now, the thing that I'm most interested in and is I'm a huge Marcus Smart fan. I love Marcus. I love everything about him. I love the way he plays, so forth and so on. However, now what we're really saying there in Boston is now the elder statesmen on the team. Now, when I say elder statesmen, they are the best players on the team, but now they are the most influential players on the team. Not only the way they play, but now in the locker room, it's going to be Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Now it's their team. Mm-hmm. Now it's their voice. Now when something needs to be said, instead of us waiting to see what Marcus Smart's going to say, now it's Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Okay. Al Horford, as far as basketball, his best basketball is behind him now. I think he will always be a leader as a vet and people will respect him, but we're not expecting Al to come out there and, he'll have those games, but we're not expecting him to carry it in a series. So now the leadership now will shift. They will take on a new personality and it's their time. And I'm saying we can argue about whether or not this is the right move. Okay. And that's fair. That's fair criticism. However, the thing that I'm not going to argue about is this ownership has said, we're going for it. They're going for it right now. They're not like what we're seeing with other franchises where they've taken a turn and they're adding this or
but they're going for it by making their defense worse.
Okay, that's fair criticism.
Yeah.
However, that's fair criticism. What we do know in the NBA is that there's two trains of thought. There's rim protection that you're going to defend with, and then there's perimeter defending the three-point line. Okay. Coach Mazzulla has stated what he values most. He values three-point shooting. I'm not saying it's right. We can argue. We can say Mike D'Antoni, we can argue on whether or not you can win a championship. Just like we can argue whether the way Daryl Morey, for instance, we can argue that. That's fair. That's a fair argument. However, what we do know is if you're going to win or you're going to be a good defensive team in today's game, as it is, now it's always changing and always evolving, you got to have two things. Either you got to have great perimeter defensive players who can guard the three-point line, or you better have rim protection. Now, I think they said, well, we got a player who will fit what we want, which is three-point shooting. Coach Mazzulla has been consistent about that. All right, Mo doesn't like it. All right, that's fine. That's fair. But the combination of Porzingis, at least on paper, and the Time Lord, and the other guys at their size, I'm going, that's pretty interesting. I'm not saying I agree it's going to work. I'm just saying on paper, well, it appears to be that they have said three-point shooting, which addresses their offensive need. That's how they want to play. And it addresses their need to have not one, but two shot blockers on the court at the same time.
Yeah, I'm not against Porzingis joining this team, right? My point is more the deal was supposed to be giving up Malcolm Brogdon and getting Porzingis in return. Now, the Clippers pulled out of that trade. The Celtics were under a timeline of pressure because Porzingis had until midnight to opt into his contract to make this deal happen. But you can, if you're Porzingis and the Wizards, mutually agree to extend that deadline of when you have to opt into your contract by. So it feels to me that the Celtics panicked and did whatever it took to acquire Porzingis rather than saying extend that deadline and we'll work out for a deal with Brogdon elsewhere to make the original framework work. Because then you have the rim protection and everything you're talking about with Porzingis and the three-point shooting, and you still retain your best playmaker and an elite perimeter defender. That's why I think it's bad. Not that getting Porzingis is bad. Well, it's that you could have found a way to make this work.
Okay, that's a fair assessment. However, once a player fails a physical, which is a subjective thing, now you have to find a new home for this player in 24 hours. Okay, and that's, to me, puts you at a significant disadvantage. Okay. All right. Now, I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying it puts you at a significant disadvantage once the word gets out that player X has failed a physical. Well, what's wrong? Did you know this was, like, who did we just see? Someone here. Oh, we just saw it with the Portland. Remember the Portland, Golden State, Detroit?
Yeah, Gary Payton.
With Gary Payton. Okay. Yeah. It's a subjective thing. Like, some doctors may say it's fine. Some doctors, So again, I'm going to assume they are working under, the domino effect. One thing has to happen before the other thing happens. We don't know what they're going to do. Maybe they got something up for the draft. Who knows? I don't know. This is one thing that's why I'm careful to comment about it, is because I'm going to assume this roster construction that they're currently doing is not done. And we're going to see what they're going to do as we go through it. However, right now, that's a valid point. But for whatever reason, they felt they had to do something and do it right now, because maybe they had something else going. Maybe they don't. I don't know. But I do know it's very difficult putting deals together. And I do know that, economically, you got to find things that fit into what your economic framework is. But what I do respect about the Celtics is they've pushed their chips in, because now we know that the Celtics are going for it. That's one thing we know. And now,
economically, you've got an elite guard who's on a cost control contract for multiple years, and now instead you have an injury-prone big man who's opted into a $36 million extension, and you're going to give a 2-year, $77 million deal with the new CBA looming and having to pay Jaylen Brown. So economically, it doesn't make sense for me either. And now, if you want to add talent,
how come they've added? Okay, but if you want to add the guys to win,
you want to add talent. You're adding, who are you getting? This is my question. What else have you got in the works? Who are you getting at that guard position? Like, who on the Celtics is a good passer? Let's even start with that. Who's a good passer left on the Celtics?
Okay, again, Mo, if you're looking at the roster right now, those are fair criticisms. If you're saying right now, and this is who they're going to open up with on opening night, Mo, they're not done.
But what I'm saying to you is the remaining assets you have to make more deals, because you're not getting free agents, right? You might have the taxpayer mid-level $5 million, but you've got Malcolm Brogdon who can't pass a physical. You've got Grant Williams who can be signed and traded.
Pass the physical according to the LA Clippers. It's a subjective thing. It's subjective.
The most accepting of injury team in the NBA, the LA Clippers.
It's a subjective thing. There's 30 different doctors. And one doctor may say one thing, one doctor may say that. We can't just say the stats. We have to give the whole picture and then allow our listeners to make their own conclusion. Okay, the Clippers, all right, whatever. Some teams may let you play, some teams may not. But we have to say that, and then everyone can come to their own conclusion.
Are there any players out there that you think the Celtics could target to continue this construction of their roster?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What names spring to mind?
Well, it's one thing I'll never forget, and I hope he doesn't mind me sharing this story, is every year, one of the meetings I enjoy most in the draft is always Pat Riley, the Godfather. Mm-hmm. He comes in, and normally teams will come in and say, hey, who you have on your free agent? And you'll go down your list, and then they'll tell you what they're looking for, and you'll try to see. Pat Riley comes in every year, and he says, this is who we're looking for. And he doesn't care if they are a max player, a minimum player, 4 years left on the deal, rookie. He says, this is what we're looking for. And he always says, let us figure out how to get them. That's why you have these cap guys. Why do every team has a cap guy if they can't figure out how to get the player when it comes down to maneuvering the cap? That's what they're there for. So if you really want a player, you can utilize the cap for two things. Either it's your best defense, well, we've spent all our cap money, or you can be creative, Mo, and say, we'll figure out how to get this guy because this is what we need to win. Either way, there are problem solvers and there are people who create problems. Now, which one you're going to do? So if they really want player X, just like they really wanted Porzingis, they figured it out. Now it's up for them to figure out what it is they're going to need to play under Coach Mazzulla. I just happen to value defense. I value that. I value defense and I value toughness. I value being able to stop the ball. However, Coach Mazzulla, who could have a different philosophy. I don't know. I haven't spoken to him, but I do know he values three-point shooting. I do know he values offense. And I do know when everything hit the fan in the playoffs this year, he kept saying, we need to shoot three-point shots. We both heard that, right, Mo?
Yep.
Okay. Now, I kept saying, let's try to stop player X. Let's try to stop Gabe Vincent. Let's try to shore up our defense. But that's just me. And I'm not saying one is right. I'm not saying one is wrong. I'm just saying if that fits his philosophy and their philosophy, Porzingis fits what they're doing right now. He can stretch the floor. He can play with Al Horford and he can play with the other kid, Rob Williams, and he could shoot threes and he can rim protect. So I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying what I value, what I've seen, and then let's see if it works. Now, I think you can always get a guard, right? Because there aren't going to be a lot of shots available, right? I mean, I'm just going off the top of my head now. What if Chris Paul, I'm just using it as a name. What if Chris Paul is there, right? You have Chris Paul. Now you can bring Brogdon off the bench. And so
another injury-prone player.
But I'm whatever the case may be, what we do know is that we need players there that can fulfill what they're looking for. Whatever it is they're looking for. I don't know what they're looking for. Coach Mazzulla and that front office is going to figure out what they're looking for and what they value most, right? I'm gonna assume maybe it's a Gabe Vincent type player. Maybe it's a player out there we don't even know who they're targeting. Who knows? But what I do know is that I like the fact that they're going for it. And that's what I like. So to me, that's exciting. That's an exciting thing for me. Now I'm interested to learn something because I happen to like defense more.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens. And that's just me personally. It doesn't, like I said,
my thing is just like whichever player you're targeting, I don't see how with your options available, you're getting a player who's better than Marcus Smart.
That's fair. That's a fair opinion.
I don't
have a problem with that.
In my opinion, they should have extended that deadline and found a way to move Brogdon instead of Marcus Smart. Maybe they have something planned with those 2 first-round picks that Memphis gave them. I don't know. I'm not inside that room right now.
Yeah, that's fair.
But we'll have to wait and see. PJ, I wanted to just get from your perspective, because you've been in it's the draft tonight, right? You've been in what they call the war rooms when teams are making their picks and making their trades. Can you just give us an insight into what the atmosphere is like inside them and what really goes down behind the scenes? And we see a lot of last minute deals. Are those deals really as last minute as they appear, or have they been in the works for a long time and they just pull the trigger at the last minute? Or are there situations where, say, Portland's about to pick number 3 and then their phone rings and it's Brad Stevens saying, here's Jaylen Brown for your 3rd pick, or whatever it might be?
Well, in some of the best rooms that I've been in is you have all the options available, right? You look at every team, right? You look at every team and you say, here's their cap situation, here's their current roster, and then you go through the exercise based on what you think they need and what they play, how they play. And then you look at every scenario, right? Your cap guy puts out every scenario in which it's possible for them to move every player. Okay, so you say, let's take the Boston Celtics. All right, there's no scenario in which I think they would move Jason Tatum.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if you said Giannis, maybe if you said Jokic, but do I think Denver is going to say, hey, Boston, we're going to move Jokic for Jason Tatum? Right? I don't think there's a scenario.
Yeah, no, that's not happening.
So Jason Tatum's off the board. Then you just go down the list. You just do it. You're very methodical. You just go down the list and you say, okay, here's where I think they're going to try to improve their roster. I think they're going to try to improve their guard play. Well, how you think they're going to do it? And then you'll say, what do you think they will move Marcus Smart for? What do you think they'll move? And you just go through it. Now, once you know the scenarios with every team, right? You don't just get to the draft and then all of a sudden things happen last minute. You know the scenarios, and then when the scenario comes up that you're looking for, you jump on it. So you say, okay, I'm the Celtics. We need to add a big who can shoot and we need to utilize what chips you have in to improve your roster. Well, we have first round picks. Clearly, Marcus Smart was on the board with the right scenario. Clearly, Brogdon was on the board, and you methodically go through this. And then as scenarios pop up and become available, you weigh the options on who can do what, because it's like playing chess. You have to not just worry about what you're doing. Why does this other team want to do this? So it's highly unlikely that the Celtics would trade with an Eastern Conference team right now, because they feel that they're one of the elite teams. So they're not going to try to improve the Milwaukee Bucks.
Unless it's just like draft picks for the future.
They may take those draft picks and go get a player. You're not trying to give them any more chips. You're trying to figure out and deplete the other team by adding to your team. Okay. So the fact that they did 2 deals, one went through, were both with Western Conference teams. You follow me? You're constantly, because what you want to do is you want to send as many good players in the other conference so they can beat up each other. So which makes your route, at least in theory, easier to get to the finals or the conference finals. Okay. So they sent Marcus Smart to the Western Conference. Well, when you start thinking about the West, you're going, it's going to be pretty good in the West next year.
Memphis have got 2 defensive players of the year on the team now. That's scary hours.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So now what you're trying to do is figure out what you're going to need to play. So, all right. So, I was thinking about this. I was saying, okay, well, in theory, they got enough bigs to play against Philadelphia, to play against Miami, to play against Milwaukee. And at least on paper, we may not agree that it's the right, but we will agree that they have enough bigs to, at least in theory, Porzingis should be able to do something versus PJ Tucker. Let's just say, okay. You know what I mean? He should, in theory, be able to do something. He should be able to play against Kevin Love or whoever else they put there, or whatever it is they're going to do for Miami. So just go on and on. Mm-hmm. But I think what that's how you prepare for the draft. These guys have stacks and stacks and stacks of information. Well, now you on your computer. And every time you talk to a team, you look at every option they have available to them. That's the one thing about these cap guys is by the numbers, every player possible that can be traded for and how he can be traded. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying they put it to memory, but they definitely have 5 to 8 scenarios that they're looking for. And when a team comes into that, gets into that ballpark of what you want to do, then you try to make the deal if it fits your timeline. And I think that's what's happening with them. But like I said, I like it when teams go for it. Even if I don't agree with it, at least I respect it, and I respect the fact that you're saying the Celtics are saying, we're going for it. They're going for it right now, which is great. Now, you and I will have fun next year talking about whether it was a good deal or not, but at least we know what they're trying to do, because some of these organizations, they're not even trying to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's have fun with it, Mo. I mean, your Celtics are going for it.
Yeah, well, they say they are, but they're soft as hell now.
I just had
a text from my friend. Is Porzingis any good? I've not heard about him from time. The last thing I heard about him, he got beat up outside of a bar. So we'll see how that works out for them. I mean, no Ime Udoka, no Marcus Smart, no Grant Williams. Very soft team. And they just want to shoot threes all day. Have fun with that. I'm looking forward to receiving my Memphis Marcus Smart jersey. I think it's going to look amazing on me. There you go. But yeah, NBA drafts tonight. I know you're going to be very busy, and we'll be here to wrap it up after everything's all said and done. And hopefully there's more moves on the way.
It's awesome. Yeah, I mean, you know what, Mo? Listen, there are a million ways to build a team.
Defense is the best way.
Well, and Mo, you and I would agree on that.
I mean, all the people you listed, Daryl Morey, Mike D'Antoni, their teams never won nothing. So if you're happy getting to the conference finals, okay.
But there's always a first. Mo, there's always a first. There's always a first. Okay. And that's what makes it interesting. Everyone says old school, new school. Mo, like it's been consistent in how you win. It's been consistent in how you win in this league since the beginning.
Yep.
And that's why when people say, oh, that's old school. No, it's not old school. This is just what it is. Like when you got to the playoffs this year, you know what was fascinating? The scores came down drastically. How many games did we see in the playoffs this year? They were under 100 points. It's because, Mo, it's really hard to defend and do those things in the regular season. But when you get to the playoffs, Mo, the game slows down and it gets organized. It gets more physical. And then everyone kind of zeroes in. And then you have time to prepare. That's how good these guys are.
Do you know who I want to see the Celtics try and get? I want him to try and get Bruce Brown. From Boston, opted out of his contract.
Yeah. You could have had him last year for nothing. That's what I'm saying. Like this is what I'm saying, Mo. This is why I'll say this, and I don't want to go too far. This is why everyone talks about analytics and coaching, and this guy's a leader and this guy's a star. They're great players everywhere. Mm-hmm. Scouting is the most valuable thing in the NBA. It's the most. We should just do. You know what we should do, Mo? Is what we should do is we should be from the first podcast that start valuing the most. This is the most valuable thing in the NBA: the ability to identify talent, because there are good players everywhere, even on the worst teams in the league. I remember when Bruce Brown played for the Detroit Pistons. You could have got him for anything. Yep. Now Bruce Brown is in the NBA parade, and they're talking about we need Brucey. You could have got Bruce Brown literally for nothing.
Yep. Even last summer, his phone wasn't blowing up.
That's what I'm saying. So the thing that is, to me, one of the most undervalued thing in the NBA is the ability to scout and scout talent. Okay. And it's amazing to me how when we start talking about championship caliber players, it's the same formula: toughness, okay, defense, professionals. And they're everywhere in this league. But some of us don't value defense. Some of us don't value professionalism. We'll take a talented guy who maybe we'll say, well, this guy's talent is off the charts. Maybe we'll just say this guy is a shooter or whatever it is. But if we're talking about winning, you win with professionals, you win with tough guys, and you win with defense. And Bruce Brown, there are not a lot of Bruce Browns around, but let me tell you this. There's quite a few of them. There's quite a few of them, okay? And that, to me, is what makes it fun in the NBA. And scouting, at the heart of what I do as an executive, as an agent, is to be able to identify championship caliber players. Caldwell Pope, for instance. You could have had him.
Yep.
These guys, Jeff Green, how many teams have he played for?
He's been playing
these guys are here. That's what I'm saying. These guys are all through the league. It's just that the philosophies of what we value, everything's got to always come together. And here's the last thing I'll say. There's three things that has to happen when you're constructing a team. First of all, you got to have good timing. You got to have some luck. And then you got to have talent.
Yeah.
And this year, Denver had all three. That's how you win.
Yeah. Should I tell you something interesting that's just come out? The Clippers' reversal on Brogdon was centered not on having time to complete a physical. He didn't fail the physical. They just thought there wouldn't be enough time. And it's unclear whether Brogdon will need surgery on his forearm, but if he does, he'll still be ready for the start of next season. So the original trade should have just gone through.
Mo, this is what I've said. That's what I said, Mo. It's a subjective thing. That's what I was saying to you.
Yeah, they didn't even have time to do
it. Mo, you never. The owner, the GM could have said, "Wait a minute. They're trying to get over and improve their team, cap us down." Who knows what these people are doing? But what I do know, Mo, is they're incredibly smart, and everyone is always playing chicken with the other team. So you never know what is going on to do something. You know what I mean? So again, Mo, let's just enjoy it here. And at least, okay, my team right now, the Detroit Pistons, Mo, my team. Okay, Mo, we're light years away from pushing all our chips into the middle of the table right now.
Yes.
Okay. So at least you could agree whether or not you agree with the moves. But right now, Mo, we're just trying to get our roster together right now because we were trying to, build our roster through the draft. So, that's what makes this fun. I love to scout. If there's one thing that I would do more than anything is just to be able to go out and scout players. Because Mo, that is because think about this, Mo, the greatest players, they've all like fell in the draft. Like we drafted Jordan number 3. Well, how did he get to number 3? How did Manu Ginobili get to the second round?
Jokic,
how did Jokic
Draymond,
get to the second round?
Even Kobe.
How did Giannis, Mo, get to what did he get? Like 14, 15,
yeah.
Kobe to 13. Oh, so the thing is, Mo, what I always try to do, and I always have this responsibility, is to never, ever miss a great talent.
Yeah.
Never miss it.
My friend Daman went through the last number of NBA drafts and looked at where the best player from that draft class was actually picked. So 2019, Ja Morant, 2nd pick. 2018, Luka, the 3rd pick. 2017, Tatum, 3rd pick. 2016, Jaylen Brown, 3rd pick. 2015, Booker, 13th. 2014, Jokic, 41st. 2013, Giannis at 15. 2012 was the last time the best player from a draft class was picked number 1, and that was Anthony Davis. Before that, Kawhi in 2011, number 15. 2010, Paul George at number 10. 2009, Steph at number 7. 2008, Russ at number 4. 2007, KD at number 2. So, yeah, there's a lot of talent out there. I'm excited to see what happens.
Exactly. Mo, that's what we should be. Like, everyone wants to talk about the draft. I'm going to say this here. All right, this is the first time I'll say it because now I'm starting to believe it. I started to notice when these players were coming in so young, how were they going to get better? You had to create a whole new system. That's called you hear about player development all the time, right? Coaches don't have time to develop because if they lose enough games, they'll get fired. That's a fact. So player development and coaching don't go hand in hand. So then this is when I started saying, I go, you know what the number one job is? And I just started doing this on my own, is start scouting NBA players. Yeah. Because they're so young. They're coming in at 19. In 3 or 4 years, they're 22, 23.
Yeah. The age that they would have been drafted in previous eras.
Yes. So Mo, to me, the most valuable thing is to be able to evaluate, if you will, young players who you think have a chance to become professionals. Because when they come into this league, they're not professionals. They don't have any experience and they're just learning. But so the NBA kind of picked up on it. And then that's why they created the G League, because they're like, why should we get penalized and start developing players for other people? All right. There was a player before you, a younger player. His name was Jermaine O'Neal. It took him about 4 or 5 years to become the all-star Jermaine O'Neal, but he developed in Portland, but he starred in Indiana. That to me is the secret now to the NBA. And that's what Pat Riley knows. See, Pat Riley confirmed what I always believed. Because we're drafting potential, but professional players, they're totally different. He just has a formula of what he's looking for. And his formula is, we're going to draft guys who can shoot and who can defend. Okay. Caleb Martin can shoot and he can defend. Strus. He can shoot. What's the kid? Gabe Vincent.
Smith. Oh, yeah, Gabe Vincent.
Gabe Vincent. He has a formula. And it doesn't matter whether you're a lottery pick or whatever. That's just potential. Potential gets coaches fired. If you can defend your position and you can shoot, you can play in this league. as long as you selfish players.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Pat Riley has done. I've been thinking this for about the last 10 years. And I said, oh my, he did it. He started taking players that weren't drafted, that no one else was looking at. And he just said, forget the draft because I don't have time to develop these people.
Mm-hmm. Get the undrafted guys that played a few more years of college, played in the G League or overseas.
He has a specific thing, not just any guy. He has a specific thing that he's looking for. Can you defend your position and can you shoot? Mm-hmm. Shooting is just repetition.
Yep.
And that's why these guys play the way they play. And that's why they're, Cody Zeller. What? How did Cody Zeller? He wasn't in anybody's roster. And all of a sudden now he can play because he has a specific thing that he's looking for. That to me is the key now to the NBA. Being able to identify the Bruce Browns and those guys, because those are the unlikely contributions that I always refer to.
Mm-hmm. I hear it.
You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Maybe the Celtics have something up their sleeve that we don't know about.
I hope so. Because it thinks to me, the speed at which they pivoted to the smart traders, they were originally going to do the Porzingis trade for Brogdon and then trade smart for Tyus Jones and the picks anyway. And Tyus Jones is a fantastic backup point guard. He could even start in this league, but they basically lost out on that. So we'll see what they have planned. We'll be here tomorrow wrapping it all up for you guys. BJ, good luck with everything going on with the draft tonight. I know you'll be busy.
Thank you, Mo. Well, hopefully, Mo, you and I, no, I'm serious, Mo. It would be a fun exercise.
Let's do it.
Us to say, okay, we're just going to watch games to watch the championship caliber players who could contribute.
Yeah. The dogs.
You follow? Yeah. The championship caliber players.
Yeah.
Because why do we miss them? We always miss them because we're so enamored with the star player, which is obvious. Like you see Zion, you go,
mm-hmm.
But this guy's like Herb Jones. You're going, no, I would love to get that guy.
Man, Herb Jones for real.
You follow? Like what did Utah see in Lauri Markkanen that the rest of us missed?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that to me is what makes it fun because now, Mo, you have to really have a deep understanding and take deep dives and saying, if this guy gets to the right place, this is what he could be. And that to me is the fun part of the NBA, and putting these things together. Like the this is the last one I'll say. Pat Bev really saved the Chicago Bulls season a year ago.
Yeah.
But Pat Bev, he couldn't get it going for the Lakers. Mm-hmm. But Pat Bev in Chicago.
Same with Russ and the Clippers.
Yes. See, that's to me, that's why when I start seeing people criticize, I go, maybe it just doesn't work with their philosophy.
Yeah, it's all situations.
Their personnel. Yes. But if you can put him in the right scenario, man, you got a player. Like Pat Bev, I mean, they were unbelievable once he got there.
Mm-hmm.
Just one player, and that's the difference between a team. So we know defense matters. Okay. We know professionalism matters and we know toughness matters. It's consistent. And then when you have a very talented player that embodies all of those things, or your best player, now you're talking something, Mo. So you got me excited, Mo. So
yes, sir.
You got me excited.
I'm excited to see what happens tonight.
Like the Celtics, Mo, they have talent. But you know what would be really fun to do, Mo? If they said, hey, Mo, BJ, just go get us the toughest guys we can find to surround these guys with. Now, Mo, that would be a fun exercise.
And I will bring them. I'll bring them Marcus Smart. I've got just the guy for you. He absolutely loves the city. He gives it his all on every possession.
I know exactly. Who I got, Mo. You know who I think they're going to get. Dylan Brooks. Yes, that'll be the guy.
That'll be the guy. I can already see it.
Yes,
I can already see it.
Baby. Yes, that's who we want. That's who we want, baby. That's who we want.
We'll see. We'll see. There's
That's
tough
who we
and there's
want.
fake tough, so we'll have to wait and see on that. So I'm not trying to see no damn pregame dance.
That's who we want, baby. That's who we want. That's
I'm ending the show. I'm ending the show. Hey, listen, subscribe, Spotify, YouTube, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, and most importantly, like the Memphis Grizzlies will next year, get buckets.